the media in natural resources sustainability. Many of us in Uganda do not realize that we all have a role to play in ensuring sustainability in the management and use of our natural resources. Today we focus on one segment of society, a segment that most of us in this room find to be very important, and that is the media. Over the course of the next 3 or so hours, we will be having this discussion in the room and out in the rest of Uganda, aired live on NTV Uganda and on all the social media platforms that we have. And we are going to concentrate on identifying solutions, identifying opportunities, and committing to implementing them for the good of Uganda. Once again, you're all very welcome to this morning's dialogue. My name is Simon Kaheru, and I will be moderating the discussion. I will invite, without further ado, the Executive Director of the National Environmental Management Authority, Dr. Tom Okorut, to give us an overview and set the scene for this morning's discussion.
Thank you, Simon. Honorable Minister, Honorable Justice of the Court of Justice, Members of Parliament, and all of you present here, welcome to this dialogue. This is an important event in the work that we do to educate and share information about environment with the members of the public. This event gives us an opportunity, first, as the theme says, the role of the media in natural resource sustainability. It gives an opportunity to investigate and also find out if the media has a role to play in delivering the message of environment. And as I start my submission, I want to say that at the very best, the environment sustains us. We are here because of the environment that surrounds us. And that requires us to understand what environment is, because sometimes I notice if you don't understand what you're talking about, you try to interpret it the way you understand or probably misunderstand what environment is. And in this context, I wanted most of the time, I've noted that most of the time, because we have a different thinking about environment, we take environment very far away from us. There. Those forests, those wetlands, those lakes, that's the environment. I want to bring environment back to us here. Environment is you, me, and then it begins with us. And then how we relate to those things that are near us. That is the environment. The human beings are the center, and then whatever else near us and how we relate to them is our environment. And if we understand like that, I think it becomes very important that we as a public or members of the public, the human beings, are central in controlling our environment. So don't discuss environment as if it is there. It starts with you. That imposes responsibility on us. That's the importance of this discussion. We have been grappling with the concept of assessing whether the public is responsible for environment. And from the current practice, you know it, a lot of common things have happened. The forests gone, most areas, the wetlands gone, the lakes now, the water has gone back. The air we live, sometimes not very comfortable. The temperatures are high, the weather has changed, everything is changing around us. It's changing around the human being. And we're still saying we have no role probably in contributing to that change. So it is instructive, therefore, to start thinking, how are we responsible in managing where we live? That's the most important aspect in this, in your own daily consideration. Are you making a contribution such that where you live is comfortable? Are others doing the same? If you check the Uganda's context, maybe not. Because people think the environment is for government. It's a government factor. It's not their factor. Yet, actually, they are there all the time. We did some small study, just a short analysis by interviewing people, whether they know what environment is. Basically, or the level of awareness of environment, the way they understand. And we found out that 95% of Ugandans across, if you went to any part, they're aware about environment, they're aware what they're not supposed to do, they're aware of the evils, they're aware of the benefits. That awareness, very well, actually across board, 95% of the people are completely aware about the environment. And almost 100% of people are aware about the institution called NEMA. If you talk about it, brand name, they will say that's NEMA land, whatever. That's a small sample, but indicative and instructive sample. Then we tested whether the people who are aware are also responsible. They take responsibility of their actions. When we did that test, the results were reversed. Between 15 and 20% of the people were ready to take responsibility of the issues they were aware of. Then, if you do that analysis, then it becomes clear that the difference between awareness and taking responsibility, that difference contributes to the negative interactions that we're observing between the population and where they live, how people act on the forest. They are very aware that cutting forests is very bad. They are aware that it will even cause more problems. They are aware, but if you tell them to stop, they won't stop. That's a responsibility factor. They won't stop. Now, why? Why don't they stop? Now, if you do the analysis further, you'll find several factors, excuses. We are poor, we don't have enough money, like that. And that's why we are doing it. And if you go further to say, if you do it to the end, what will happen? Say, after that I die, finished. That's their conclusion. You see, that's tragedy thinking. So we thought that it would be better to have this discussion where other actors like the media might play a role in raising the responsibility factor of the population to the level of the awareness. I think once the two are equal, then I think or tend to be equal, we will be able to achieve a sustainable environment for us here in Uganda, and the one we desire for now and for the future. So the sustainability of environment in Uganda depends on how we Ugandans take our responsibility in managing that resource that we call environment. And there are actors who should come. The media, the public have a role. We are throwing it back. It's not a governmental process. Government comes in to do the regulatory aspect, but the rationality, which we expect every human being, if you live here, you must be rational. We expect to be rational. That rationality keeps you responsible. The ethical behavior, you are supposed to be very ethical, you are supposed to be, those are the factors that should keep you first from going to the level where the law is used to prevent you from doing the actions. So we believe, and we did analysis and found that the media in Uganda have a very important role in providing an avenue for persons to dialogue, but also to exchange views and maybe take responsibility. So that's why we organize this dialogue. And I'm very happy the cross-sectional introduction brought in very many people from different fields, and that is very important. And still, the same message as I wind up, the same message to you is to you are aware, but become responsible. Get another person to be responsible. And that's why we want the media to come in here. So basically, that's why we're here, and I hope the engagement that we're going to get today is going to initiate or interest and for further dialogue and for further communication, and using different platforms or different approaches that you have individually to reach the public so that we take responsibility of our actions. This business of getting the government on the other side as the only factor may not be able to work. So that's the object of this meeting, and I believe the presenters who have been introduced are going to bring in more issues that can elicit more discussion. So may I take this opportunity to invite the Honorable Minister of State for Environment, Dr. Goretti Itutu, to formally open the meeting. But it's also interesting that we're happy to have Dr. Goretti here, because before she jumped in the fire, she was one of us on the other side of the trenches, on the technical side. So she is able to articulate now both from the technical aspect, but also she has a political lens to look at issues in respect to environment. Honorable Minister.
Honorable colleagues, members of parliament, the development partners present here, the executive director NEMA with your staff, the technical team from the line ministries, the editors present here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be part of this dialogue this morning, and I also strongly believe in the power of the media. Environment underwrites our very lives. Like the saying always says, that environment is Mother Nature, because from it we derive food, air, water, and health balance for our well-being. Environment is instrumental in feeding us, providing us with resources that we enjoy every day. The profound importance of environment is more pronounced in our developing nations, of which Uganda is part. And our societies actually know the importance of environment because our cultures are embedded into this. Like we all know, for example, in the past, people may think that our forefathers did not know much about the environment. But when we look at the pre-colonial times, the forestry sector was well managed, better than maybe we are doing it today. Because at that time, the cultural leaders required the communities, there were trees which were protected, you would not touch. Like in the north, you wouldn't touch the shea nut butter tree, and the muvule, which you know, these were protected. So these forefathers of ours were actually practicing sustainable development. Now, when we also look at the totems, many of them protect certain animals. You eat this, others eat this, others don't eat. That is sustainable development, and that's how we were able to find what we have today. Just imagine if those people were behaving the way we are behaving today. I think we wouldn't have got any resource. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you for a self-reflection. Let's reflect on all this. I'm happy that we are all a mixture. We have the technical, the political, and the media. There is a great potential in the media because information, they say information is power. If you are not informed, then you have no power. And actually these days, because of the power of the media, in the past, politicians would go to the villages and would talk anything from Kampala, but these days, you have to be very careful. Because of the media, people are now well informed. So let's try to use this potential to inform people about the importance of environment. But like they have said, people are actually aware. But why they don't want to do what they know about is what we now have to find out. Why? So we need to put our heads together and try to find out. Because recently, I was carrying out an inspection in one of the wetlands. And when you try to find out from the community, they are very much aware on what the wetland provides. It is a catchment, they know there is a dam, but then why are you using it for cultivation? They can't give you the answer. So these are some of the things which we need to go ahead and try to create that rapport between the community, the media, and us, the technical team. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to consider environmental emergencies such as floods, which happened in Kasese in 2015. Yesterday, I think there were floods. Chambogo, you all know that. People going back home were wading through water. And many others. Right now, we are grappling with a drought, the effects of a drought. And the drought has set in storms, hailstorms. So definitely we are going to have a lot of challenges in terms of our community, even our budgets, because we budgeted to do certain things, but we are going to end up provide emergencies to people. So these challenges show us that we have to do a lot more. Do people know? Actually, there was a time when I tried to find out, do people know why storms are ravaging the country? It is because we've cleared all the windbreaks. Actually, they tell us that there are now more accidents on Lake Victoria because we've cleared most of the forests which used to be on the lake shores. So their boats are more vulnerable. Now, whenever you cause damage to the environment, we need to know that there will be costs which we shall pay. So those costs, when we calculate in environmental economics, is equivalent to what you did, the damage. So these are some of the consequences. They say environment fights back. Most of our hills are bare. And recently, I've been told of flash floods. People are drowning. I think I got a police report from one of the mountainous areas. Now, all these are costs. The bridges have been damaged. So we need to look at sustainable development in a holistic manner. Where do we put money? Then we can get sustainable development. Do we put it on roads and we leave protecting the catchments? We shall continue repairing the roads. Now, the effects that we are feeling now were predicted as early as 1995. And I'm told that Africa is the only continent which is not prepared. Reason being, information is available, but many times planning is done without listening to certain key informations, especially from environment. But I'm very happy today that from the side of the executive, they now realize the importance of environment. They now realize the importance of protecting the wetlands and the forests. Now, the power of pictures. They say a picture is better than 1,000 words. When you show a picture, you can be able to get a lot more information than you'd have spoken 1,000 words. So the media has that ability of using this art to pass on information to the communities. Many times when people, actually, if you now showed the video of Kasese, I think people have already forgotten and have gone back to settle back there. If you show what happened in Nametsi, people have gone back. Actually, I went back. They are back there. But if you brought back those pictures and you showed what happened, then people can know the danger that we face whenever we have these disasters. Now, where does the remedy lie? Simply, it is protecting our environment. Planting a tree has become so complicated. Someone actually proposed that I wish each tree was emitting Wi-Fi. I think everybody would struggle to plant at least a tree. Because there you'll know that if I don't plant a tree, I will not access WhatsApp. Not so. But because they don't emit Wi-Fi, they just emit oxygen. And we take it for granted. Recently I was told, Kampala, you are the most polluted city in the whole of Africa. I don't know whether you are aware of this. Actually, it is not now stylish to live in Kampala. The farther you are, the better. Our emissions have surpassed all cities in Africa, and in the whole world we are ranked number 4. That's not good news. Reason being, we cook using firewood and we burn rubbish. I don't know whether it's a hobby, but you find people burning tires like, then there are those who burn horns. Have you ever seen and Nema, you need to take keen interest on this. Burning of rubbish is what is polluting the city. So maybe if you were not aware, we have that very big problem. And the only remedy is to get green spaces back. We are getting rid of trees in town and then burning a lot. Then we use a lot of charcoal. I'm happy the Minister of Energy is here, because you are the one supposed to solve for us this problem. Promoting clean energy in our homes. Recently, I think I was in Kenya. They have made a waiver on gas to promote more use of gas. So we need to have strategies in place where we promote more clean energy in our homes. Otherwise, we are making ourselves more vulnerable. Now, the media. Many times, we benefit from the media. And I don't know whether UBC is here, but most of the media which is now very active is the private media. Now UBC, you find that it is our government, our own, but it lags behind because we take things for granted. So we need to also put more emphasis on the media. And we see that we have a media where people are able to, actually the radios. I normally find radios, although here we have the TV, but like now my people in Manafa may not be listening to what I'm talking at this time, because for them they know Open Gate Radio. So we also need to see that, yeah, we have the local people also access this. Can they be able to see this NTV on their, like they are looking at WhatsApp? If that could reach that level, we would be able to see that. But you find that they are very keen actually when you go in the village. They are digging, but their radios are where? Near their ears. And that is a very big improvement. I was actually very much impressed. Like the ED said that People are now very much aware. They listen to all these programs. And I've tested it. I remember last year when we were warning people about the coming drought, I was on Open Gate Radio warning them about the coming drought and for them to preserve food. I was very surprised that the communities I was more worried of that were vulnerable had heard the message. So this shows you the power of using the media to reach as many people as we can. So with these few remarks in conclusion, as part of this dialogue and with the many stakeholders present here, we have the media, we have the judiciary, we have the technical people. And for judiciary, I will always continue begging you that please be part of us. When we are protecting the environment, when these droughts come, when the floods come, for you, you don't have special roads. We all move in the same floods. When the drought comes, it will not spare anybody. So when these cases come to court, please look at them as crimes. So let's not have waivers when you can save us, and we have ways of trying to have cases disposed of. So I think with these few remarks, and bearing in mind that this dialogue is very important, I look forward to seeing a vibrant media promoting more information on environmental protection, and also reaching out to the masses at the grassroots. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now with pleasure for me to declare this dialogue on the role of media in natural resource sustainability officially open.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and members, I'm sure you'll agree that those remarks were very, very pointed and quite sharp for all sectors, but most especially the media. And as the Minister remarked, and Dr. Okurut before her, when we talk of the media, it is not just the journalists who report the news or highlight issues. It also includes us, members of the general public, who make use of the media. And that's why I was intrigued when the Minister suggested that perhaps we should start emitting Wi-Fi out of the trees that we plant, because we would take it more seriously. Many of us will pay more attention to WhatsApp than to the things that give us oxygen. So perhaps if we used WhatsApp to promote sustainable use of our natural resources, we would be able to change this country, maintain it for the future generations. Our first presentation or paper is going to be delivered by a lady I hold in very high regard, and I'm proud to be sitting next to her right now. Mrs. Barbara Kaija is Editor-in-Chief at the New Vision, and she's a very, very, very professional journalist of many years' experience, even though to look at her you wouldn't believe it. She has trained many of our senior journalists in this country, myself inclusive, and she is extremely knowledgeable about the use of media communication for development. She is going to present a paper on environment and health and show us what role the print media can play in ensuring a sustainable balance between health and the environment. The presentation will be beamed up on the screen, but I'll ask you to please pay a lot of attention to her and what she's saying. Barbara, you're very, very welcome.
Thank you, Simon. Our Honorable Minister, my Lord Chief Justice, my Lord Justice, Dr. Tom Okurut, ladies and gentlemen. We are discussing media and ensuring natural resources sustainability and health and environment and how they're closely bound. Health is closely bound with environment. Poor health hampers economic and social development by triggering vicious cycles that lead to environmental degradation, and the role that the print media can play in ensuring sustainable development. I begin with a definition for sustainable development. That sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. And I quote from that UN report. Sustainable development is reasonable consumption, and when we consume, we must be responsible enough to conserve for the future generation. We don't eat on their behalf. We eat and keep for them. You can imagine a Uganda without Lake Victoria for your grandchildren. Our forefathers were foresighted, and just like the minister said, they had things to preserve nature. In the fishing villages, there are times in the months when the new moon had appeared, you'd not go fishing. And they used those fishing holidays to allow the fish to grow. And that coincided with the time when actually the fish were laying the eggs. And that's how they preserved the lakes for us. So the fishing holidays, which we are doing by statute, were actually done by them on their own accord. They had the totems, and according to the African totems, the Ugandan totems in many of the tribes, you never ate your brother. And your brother was either a hippo or a leopard or a buffalo or whatever it was, and you never ate it. And you defended your brother. And by doing that, they preserved the environment. We have overburdened our natural resources, and nature will always hit back. The consequences, like floods, infectious diseases, and like cholera, typhoid, bilharzia, and malaria, are some of the things we are seeing today as a result of not using our environment in a sustainable manner. It is estimated that malaria costs Africa over $12 billion in lost GDP, and a malaria-stricken family spends over a quarter of its income on malaria treatment, as well as suffering loss of income. There is a direct link between population pressure, sustainable use of the environment, community health, and national and family budgets on health. 35% of the diseases in sub-Saharan Africa are due to environmental factors, with the risk factors being poor water quality and water shortage, poor sanitation and disposal of waste, poor indoor air quality, mostly due to use of biomass in cooking, like firewood and charcoal. Some of you have heard of old women who have been found dead in their beds. And if you actually check, they either left a sigiri on or there was firewood in the house. But those are the extremes. There are so many others who live with allergies and chest diseases as a result of the biomass cooking. We've seen the destroyed vegetation cover, e.g. the swamps and the forests, and the abuse of herbicides and pesticides. Some of the major challenges we are experiencing as Uganda: over 40 million people in East Africa depend on Lake Victoria for a livelihood, and yet it is under threat to environmental pollution. That is a picture that was taken. All the pictures I use are New Vision pictures for credit. Sorry, I didn't write it on my presentation, but all of them are New Vision pictures. That picture was a page 1 on New Vision, and that was taken from near Port Bell. We actually used it as a page 1. Most of Uganda's livelihood depends on Lake Victoria, and yet it is heavily polluted. It could actually easily end up like Lake Chad. I'm sure many of you, when you studied geography, were told Lake Chad is a dead lake, and you probably never even imagined what had caused it. But we could easily end up like that if nothing is done. We've done a project with a New Vision on saving Lake Victoria, and the findings are astounding. And yet the Kenyan side is even more polluted than the Ugandan side. So you can imagine what would happen to the people who live on Lake Victoria. But as the 3 countries, we all actually depend heavily on Lake Victoria. Increased population around the lake and the human settlements have greatly strained the lake, destroyed swamps and forests around the lake, poor farming methods, poor waste disposal, poor fishing methods, and yes, our generation could kill Lake Victoria. And as I said, you can imagine your grandchild living in Uganda without Lake Victoria. Some of the big culprits are actually our industries. I hope one of these days, NEMA will again give us the list of heavy polluters. I don't think we should play politics. I think we should play our part as NEMA and expose them. It doesn't matter, even if they are investors, they should follow the rules. Population pressure, we are also seeing a lot of population pressure on the swamps. Wetlands are no longer doing their natural duty of purifying water, waste management, and controlling of floods. And we've lost a lot of habitat like the bird species. And this has affected also the migratory birds to Uganda. I think you saw the story recently of the birds that had died around Lake Victoria. We've got a lot of polluted forests and destroyed forests. That is Kibale. That is a true picture. Also a New Vision picture. That is Kibale Forest. Surprisingly, I don't know whether anybody has done a study. Maybe they have. I don't know whether anybody has linked Ebola in Kibale to the destruction of the forests. It's something worth looking at. Next slide. This is a picture, very beautiful picture, also a New Vision picture. It was taken from Chenjojo, and the children walk by a burning bush in Chenjojo, and you can see, I don't know what the effect is on those children, but also you can see the destruction on the environment. Uganda could actually have no forest in 2050, and this is a NEMA report. It's not my report. By 2050, we could have no forests. Forests provide clean air and water, and they provide food, shelter, and livelihoods. They destroyed ecosystem will not sustain us or the future generation. 3 districts surrounding Kampala have lost more than 78% of their forest land since 1990, with far-reaching consequences, including disrupted rain patterns and extended droughts. Somebody in West Africa has done a research on Ebola, and it's reported in the study, in the report on Steport, Journal for Veteran Research, and it shows that the increase in the Ebola outbreak since 1994 are closely associated with the drastic changes in the forest ecosystems in tropical Africa. In Gabon and the Republic of Congo, scientists have linked outbreaks to extensive deaths of forest chimpanzees and gorillas. Ebola can damage the entire economy in months. We saw that in West Africa. it brought the whole of the West African economy to a standstill. We need to look at the outbreaks in Chibale more critically. The other big challenge is the Kampala slums. Actually, many of our towns, including Mbarara, Kabale, Hoima, name them, they all have got big slums. Unprecedented rural-urban migration has led to bursting populations in Kampala and other urban centers. These put pressure on natural vegetation, especially the swamps and the forests. Limited urban infrastructure like water and sewage facilities. And they certainly lead to common diseases, skin rashes, malaria, bed bugs, cough, diarrhea, HIV and AIDS and STDs, but more surprisingly, diabetes. And we probably need to talk a bit more about that. I was surprised when I was reading and found that diabetes was one of the major issues in the slums. It is certainly lifestyle related, it's certainly diet related, but we probably need to talk a bit more about it. Maybe if actually we went to educate people and told them that, you know, when you destroy your environment, this could result. Maybe they would listen. We've got the Kampala floods and Kampala's fragile ecosystem. The intense floods being experienced are linked to increased construction due to increased population. That picture was taken yesterday. Just return to it a bit. It was taken yesterday. That's what the minister was referring to at Chambogo. That's what exactly was happening. I think that one is actually Bugolobi, but that's what was happening yesterday. This trend is very obvious in many of our towns. And I would like to give an example of National Water. In 1930, the Gaba water plant was built with a capacity of 72 million liters per day for the Central Business District and for the old colonial city. It has been upgraded and will be producing 240 million liters. I think it's at about 230 now. For the 5 divisions of Kampala and for the greater Kampala districts of Entebbe, Wakiso, and Mukono. And yet still that is far below the current need. To meet the need, government is looking to World Bank for funding to build a second water plant in Katosi with an initial capacity of 160 million liters per day, and even that will not be sufficient. It is estimated that by 2040, Greater Kampala will need up to 400 million liters of water per day. And this is data I got from National Water. They are also stretched in the management of the sewerage system. The Lubigi plant, which has just been completed, treats 5 million liters per day of refuse of septic tank, pit latrines, and wastewater. The Bugolobi plant treats about 12 million liters of water per day, but it has to be upgraded to 45 million liters of waste. And still, that is not enough. Kampala needs many more treatment plants. Other treatment plants are planned for Kajansi and Nalukolongo. They will each have a capacity to handle 5 million liters of wastewater per day. The biggest challenge the slums impose on economies is unplanned development, poor management of water, sanitation, the burden of water and airborne diseases. And as I said, all the towns of Uganda experience this. But more worrying, the towns of Uganda actually do not have proper sewerage management plans, many of the towns. When we did the Clean Towns project for New Vision, we discovered that most of the towns did not have proper centralized sewerage plants, but some, worrying, some did not even have water systems. Over 68% of the wetlands in Iganga and 75% in Palisa have been invaded by rice farmers. And today the New Vision has got a page. The story is about rice farmers. Next slide, please. Rice farmers braving typhoid, bilharzia in Uganda's wetlands. And I found some interesting information in this page. In Palisa alone, since January this year, out of the 2,800 patients registered in the health facilities, 1,400 suffered from typhoid, cholera, and diarrhea. That is in Palisa alone. In Butaleja, there have been cases of typhoid and bilharzia, but since 2016, 6 people lost their lives while another 102 were hospitalized due to cholera. In Namtumba district, every month, 10 patients from the rice-growing areas seek treatment for typhoid, cholera, or bilharzia. This data was gathered by our journalists from the ground, and this was this week, so it's very current data. Population pressure on swamps in eastern Uganda is also leading to fights. Local police reports, and this is also recent as of this week, 982 people injured over wetland skirmishes since 2008, with some still nursing life-threatening wounds. And you can see that, man, this is a real-life picture. But all these are New Vision pictures, please. So what role can print media play in ensuring sustainability in the use of natural resources? I've heard the call for the media to be more engaged, and I do agree that the media can play a big role and should play a big role. Actually, the media's mandate comes from the argument that citizens should be involved. Just like Dr. Kurut said, we are the environment because we use the environment, so we should be involved. Citizens are the first stakeholders in the sustainable use of the environment. Any program that does not include them cannot succeed. Indeed, for generations, our forefathers preserved the environment with taboos that were enshrined in everyday utilization of the natural resources. Even the totems in Africa were a conservation tool. The principle of citizens' participation is enshrined in our Constitution and in the NEMA Act. An enlightened public will propagate sustainable use of the environment. And the media is the greatest tool that we have to inform and educate the citizenry. The best way to reach the masses is through the mass media that is convenient and easily accessible to them. Uganda today has 4 newspapers, dailies, many weekly and occasional newspapers, occasional because they come up and close due to the economy, over 292 radio stations, and it is estimated that 9 people share because it doesn't help to bribe individual journalists. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable development. Special sponsored projects which allow editorial independence. So even if NEMA, you put in money and take me to Karamoja, if you're not doing your work, allow me to say so. Paid for advertorials and supplements. A well-packaged media program and media partnerships should provide an opportunity for the masses to discuss and respond to the sustainable development message. Let us seek a blend of the trusted traditional media with the new versatile media to effectively communicate the sustainable development message. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Barbara, and as usual, you did not disappoint. Yes, please. Very hard-hitting, very to the point. It's no surprise she's the editor-in-chief of the best newspaper on this land. And we thank you, Barbara. Barbara has highlighted a number of issues that make for very good media focus. I am not going to repeat her presentation. A lot of what she has put forward is very unselfish because most media houses in Uganda should be taking notes from this presentation to go and do the next big story. Many of the issues she has raised are alarming, page 1 stories, very scary, statistics that would make you pause to think very hard. I'm actually thinking about what I'll tell my grandchildren if they ask me about Lake Victoria and they are pointing at a patch of sand. That is a serious likelihood. And these are likelihoods that we need to bring up in our media, on our front pages. And as the minister said, in the main news bulletins of UBC. Barbara also pointed out some initiatives that we need to focus on. The New Vision runs campaigns. They call them projects. And the two that she mentioned, the Lake Victoria one, actually the Lake Victoria one was the one that stood out in most of our minds because it was extremely successful. It brought in business angles, industry, and of course had kicked off from the front of the environment. And Barbara also invited NEMA to collaborate more by providing information. One of the roles of the media is to hold the government and members of the public accountable. And if organizations like NEMA make use of the media in this regard, they will achieve a lot more. And of course, she has presented the challenges that the media faces. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite you in the plenary to please make your comments and observations. We will have a 15-minute session of questions and answers. I think we'll go row by row and take the first 5 rows, all your questions and observations, and then the next after that. I'll remind you to please state your name and organization as a beginning point. Have you got microphones down here? All contributions should be not more than 2 minutes long in order to allow for as many as possible to be put to the floor, and also so that the presenters may respond appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. My name is Simon Oyet, MP Nwaya County, and the Shadow Minister for Energy and Mineral Development. Thank you, Madam Barbara, for your elaborate presentation and very informative. Actually, I came in when the ED was giving his remark, and from him and after the last person, everyone is making observation that we used to conserve environment without a written law. And now the question is, what happened? Why are we destroying environment even when we have the best laws in the country? It's about enforcement. And that's where I really feel so passionate about it. We have some individuals in this country who are so powerful than the law and institutions. And that's why we have investors who come, because they come through certain individuals, they also behave the same way the person who brought them in the country. Recently, we observed a Chinese investor fighting with Piggy local government. And it was basically about environmental concern. As a Committee of Natural Resources, we did our work around Loera, where sand mining is taking place. But we were inviting some of these people to appear before the committee. But you see the way they even face the committee, that arrogancy actually reflects the person who brought them. And that's where we really need to, as a country, we need to speak and walk the talk. Secondly, I want to say that journalism is the most abused profession in this country. We have so many reporters than journalists. There are people who feel that in journalism you can gamble. And you see the way they report. Very, misinforming the public and passing information that are really not, user-friendly. So I want to appeal to the journalists, to the media. You may have the best product, but if you don't know the consumer your product, it is as good as nothing. Take your product to the right consumer. Are we on? take your right product, I mean your product to the right consumer. The bulk of the population we have today don't even go to they don't buy newspaper. Actually, the best bought newspaper in this country is the red paper, and it's bought by the politicians and the corporate classes. And they look at the first 2 pages, then they go to 9 a.m. What are they talking about me today? Who is in the 9 a.m. today? It's basically about that. Now I want to advise you, if you want your product to be consumed, go to the most popular now is the WhatsApp. That's where the bulk of the population are. You go to the workplace, people are busy on the WhatsApp. They don't even want to bother to know what brought them to work. Finally, I want to appeal to NEMA and to the Ministry of Environment to come out with a stronger law. I come from northern Uganda. We have a very bad habit of commercial charcoal burning that has eaten a big percentage of our environment. And to make the matter worse, that we have so many factories which are consuming this charcoal. What are we going to do to stop this company? Before even, I think it must start from registration. Yes, you want to open a steel rolling plant. What is your plan in terms of energy supply? Are you going to use charcoal? Go to Tembo, steel rolling, many other factories. They're consuming charcoal. And that's why the demand for charcoal has gone so high. And this demand degenerates to our environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Members, you will note that there was a small loophole, and the Honorable Member has made very good use of it. He spent 2 minutes on every one of his issues. So we'll ask other presenters to spend 2 minutes with the entire contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, moderator, and I want to thank the presenter for a well-elaborated presentation. And the minister...
Introduction, please. Name and organization.
I work for the petroleum sector. The minister challenged the Minister of Energy on the biomass, the use of wood for firewood. I want to highlight the project to save our forests, which is the use of gas, LPG. When we start our oil production, some of the products that come out is gas. And we are looking at generating LPG, which is the gas used for cooking. When we were discussing with the oil company on this issue of utilization, the challenge we found that the market in Uganda cannot utilize all the gas that we shall be producing. That's the challenge. So we are working on a project to sensitize Ugandans, and the project is almost reaching final stages. We shall work with the media and the public. That's why this fora is very important, to sensitize Ugandans to change from biomass to gas, the use of gas. And so we want all of you to work with us to make sure we sensitize the people. The gas we have, we can convert it into LPG and use it for cooking. We shall start with small volumes because the market in Uganda now cannot consume all the gas if you convert it into LPG. So the rest of the gas will be used for power, but if the market increases, we should be able to expand to provide the gas so that we save our forests. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, sorry, shall we finish the row? Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Winfred Masiko, Woman Member of Parliament, Rukunji District, and member of the Natural Resources Committee of Parliament. My issue arises from the presentation that has been made, but my passion is about the women who form the majority of the population, and most of whom are in rural areas, and who, because of their socially constructed roles, they interface with the environment greatly. However, the kind of media, especially the print media that has been talked about, they don't seem to utilize it because of their socially constructed roles. They have no time, and also sometimes they are not able to read, though they can see pictures. I just wanted to know, in this campaign that we're talking about, are there any products that are being developed so that they can address that kind of population? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Geoffrey Damzung is my name, a member of parliament for Diop East, Buyenda district. I want to thank the organizers. Two things. The media are doing a very good job. I recommend them, and I want to thank you for what you are doing. However, I think it goes back to enforcement, as my colleague said. In this case, we have moved most of the areas, and we have realized that we even find NEMA authorizing giving permits without even the knowledge of the districts. You go to a district, you find the district environment officers not even aware of the permits at all. Then you wonder how someone in Kampala can know what is on the ground, and even the person who is there. So I would propose that if in case of, if that such a policy is there, I would propose that NEMA also, we find ways of regulating it at the district level, and have the district environment officers fully involved in this to avoid the so many issues that we have found on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Yes, we'll go down the line.
Thank you. Dennis Katunji from Uganda Media Center. I want to approach this topic from the angle of poverty eradication. I think there is a combination of factors that relate poverty to environmental issues. It's, for example, poor people don't plant trees. I think we know that. I look at my village, a whole parish, and I counted about 10 people who are planting trees, and they are sampled from here. Like there would be people from this class doing that. But people who own land don't plant trees. And when you talk to them on the list of priorities, they'll tell you we're looking for fees for our children, we are treating our animals as sick. So buying trees and planting them is not even there. They are not thinking about that. So you'd think, what is the government doing about that, or an organization like NEMA? When you look at a country like Rwanda, I think there was a time when government availed trees to everyone who has land to plant them. That would solve some problem. And those people are actually impacting the land they use, because they cut charcoal, they send people in the land to clear it. So you'll find that that is happening now, but not much is being done about it. We have Operation Wealth Creation. I think at the moment is the biggest program of government to help. When I looked at my area, there are very few people, the uptake of Operation Wealth Creation, people who do that, there are very few. Still, I don't know, the disconnection there. But so I'm looking at it from the angle of government and other agencies. What are we doing in that area? The other thing is population pressure. In Uganda, we know that that is a major thing. But I don't see a major message from any angle, even from government, saying that that's the problem. Actually, we say that in Uganda, we have a big country, we can have as many children as we want. But I think we need to look at that as well. That's my contribution.
Thank you, Dennis. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaheru. And I would humbly request for 1 extra minute, simply because Amatia Luangabwanika and the recent Chinese Kasanje sand mining scenario depicted me as a mad person who is not informed of how the state operates. So out of that, I would like to give very few, comments which may assist us in this dialogue. And as we know, of course, environment is among the 3 cross-cutting issues globally. And I'm going to talk from 2 perspectives. One, as a policy maker from that micro levels of a district chairperson, very local as I am, and then as a media person who practiced it for 14 years. And of course, my personal experience is those who are degrading the environment are very knowledgeable, very powerful. In fact, contrary to what you've said, very rich and very arrogant, act with impunity. Of course, enforcement is always effected on those who lack the knowledge, yet their degradation is very minimal, and they are very powerless. They have no political muscle or economic. The Kasanje scenario, of course, NEMA had acted. I thank Dr. Kurut and your team by only issuing letters of stopping the exercise. I came to learn that they even confiscated the wheel loaders to the police station of Kasanje, where the Kampala Metropolitan, DSOs, everyone from the state agencies could call, you know, intimidating the OC to surrender the machines back. Of course, NEMA never, you know, took it upon themselves to copy it to we, as we are local anyway. Meaning they are working in isolation, I don't know. However, members of parliament, we are now in the budgeting process. Have you appreciated what you offer these agencies like NEMA? These agencies like the police, environmental police? Can we wake up now and say, let us empower these agencies by giving them more resources, and then we will see what will happen? Because currently, we are treating symptoms where, you see, it's very fun. Now we are looking for money to assist those who are hungry because of the drought, without, you know, appreciating what was the cause of the drought. And you'll wonder, I wish if we facilitated NEMA to do its work, then the drought wouldn't be there, and therefore life would have continued. Now the judiciary can assist us where the police is very effective, because the initial stage of whatever case is at the police. Look at a scenario where I became the main complainant. Now the OC station said, hey, don't even leave the suspects here, I will get problems. I had to take the suspects personally to the DPC Entebbe. Before I reached Kampala, the suspects were released without even making a statement. Well, NEMA, you went to the site. That's where I will end by thanking the media, just after the media has exposed it. But now, have you gone ahead to follow the case? Have you contacted me anyway, poor as I am, to know how far have we gone with these Chinese who don't have even the work permit? Yeah. Who are not even registered, and the immigration status is not very, very clear. Honorable Minister, how about these agencies? We have the PISOs, the GISOs, the DISOs, the RISOs, name them. Is their role, what is their role? To look for Besigye and Lukwago? Well, I mean, if we have, even at the micro level, we have everyone as a state spy. They fail to spy on someone who is sand mining, then I would end up by appreciating the media. Because now, in my case, they acted as police, they acted as the law enforcement, they acted as the prosecutors, they acted as they exposed the mess, they made what we would call name and shaming, they set the agenda for agencies where the NEMA went there the following day, and even the parliamentary committee the other day, just out of the media. However, we should also appreciate Kaija's dilemma, that where Sudiri happens to be one of the big advertising agents in the New Vision, what will happen when it's dumping soil in Rutembe wetland? Now, finally, NEMA, don't look at me as a political activist. I would request to take me as a partner in order to realize some degree of change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sorry, could we need to finish the row. Do we have any observations on this side? No? One, could we come here and then we'll come back to you? So that the presenters will find it easy to follow. Thank you.
Kenneth Kakuru, Judiciary. Maybe just to say that nobody is above the law. And if you have any doubts, you can go and you can check on the cases of Nyakana. There are other cases, share properties, all these other cases are there. But the public, members of the public can also bring civil cases to court. They don't have to be aggrieved or are directly affected. And many have done. And you can get civil remedies, for example, against the offenders. You can bring a civil action. You can get a court order closing down that activity, and it can be enforced. And money for compensation can be paid, and other directives can be made. You don't have only to take criminal action against people. Secondly, something about remoteness of damage, that we feel so far from, it was stated, I think by the Honorable Minister, that what we do is not clearly connected with the consequence. But Madam Kaija, I think she explained it very well about the typhoid and all that. But that's, to me, what is important, what ought to be brought out more clearly and consistently, that look, this is what we are doing at this time, and this is what is being harvested by the media. Instead of reporting news, we should also consistently report on what happened later. Then on the other one is the cumulative effect. Small things we do that don't appear to be harmful, but if 1 million of us do that, what is the cumulative effect? Kavera, of course, is the most common example, and but also cutting trees and all that. If we could bring up that picture, that the small thing you are doing, whether it's cutting one branch of the tree, look at what is the cumulative effect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Justice. We're going to finish this table. If there's a comment on the next, then we go back to the Honorable Gentleman.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Christina Kello. I'm the Deputy ED NEMA. I would just like to highlight a few issues. One is the interconnectivity between environment and health, as mentioned by Barbara, but the aspect related mostly to the disease burden that we have in this country. Many of the diseases, as highlighted, are caused by environmental factors. So to reduce on the disease burden in this country and the whole lot of money that goes into that, we need also to work on the quality of the environment. In that way, we can release money to go into more productive areas of our country's resources than to treat diseases. The second element I would like to point out is that on enforcement. Justice Kakuru has mentioned the improvements in the judiciary and also the laws and the cases that have gotten profiled quite highly up to the Supreme Court level. But we are also amending the National Environment Act, and we're coming up with a new bill, National Environment Bill, which looks to improving on the enforcement dimensions, including by proposing an environmental tribunal and also augmenting the other enforcement processes, which will allow us to do more enforcement without necessarily having recourse to the courts of law. So that's the second dimension in enforcement aspects. But the third element is in respect to the poverty element. There is, yes, the aspect of poor people who might not have the resources to invest in the environment, but there's also the poverty of the mind, that even though some people are rich materially, they are very poor in the mind, that they will not connect their activities to things that can actually enrich the environment and put investment in the environment the way it should be. Because if there is a degradation of the environment by someone who has material possessions, without thinking that that degradation will impact on the quality of water that they are still going to use as an individual, then that is more harmful to us as a country than when we focus on what we should be doing to help the poor people in this country to actually invest more in environmental management, but also for environmental sustainability. And lastly, very quickly, is that on looking to environment as natural capital. For instance, industry must be focusing on investing on this natural capital, putting a cost to it, and ensuring that some resources are plowed back to ensuring proper environmental productivity, to also sustain the industrial processes, even as we look to ensuring proper productivity in the investment angle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. Members, I allowed her to go on a bit longer because she's responding to some of the issues, so that releases pressure on Dr. Okurut as well. So thank you, madam.
Thank you. Mine is thank you to NEMA.
Introduction, please.
My name is Osinde Michael. I'm the chairman Legal Committee, National Consultative Forum. One is to thank NEMA for the efforts that I've ever done, because there is an angle that we have omitted. In most cases, you find in these wetlands, rich people actually acquire land titles in the wetlands. It's not about the poor person. You find a rich man processing a land title in a wetland. And when NEMA comes now for enforcement, wish to thank the Public Relations Officer, NEMA, and the Executive Director. Pressure is mounted. Yet the same arm of government has issued the title, and you are now saying NEMA go and pursue. These matters end up in court, and when they are in court, the same rich man again uses money. Now my mentor, Justice Kakuru, will bear witness that when you take 2 years or 3 years, when you are arguing up a matter in court, the status quo in the swamps actually remain constant, or even anything worse. Now, at this point in time, we must appreciate that NEMA has done something, because they have been fighting these people every day. My brother calls it a letter. That letter is very powerful. When NEMA writes to you a letter stopping you from that, that can be part of evidence in court. That letter is very powerful. It's not a small tool. And therefore, I want to take this opportunity to thank NTV in Bududa. If it was not for NTV, we wouldn't know the impact of poverty that had taken place. Therefore, a poor person, they argue in Bududa and elsewhere that we are poor. This is our small land. This is the only trees that we have. So in their wisdom, because of poverty, government says produce, we shall take them to UPE. But the consequences are that the pressure is mounted and they don't have anything. They end up destroying the very environment. The minister would help me take up that. What would we do? Because these people argue, much as they are aware, they argue that they are poor, and in their mind, they believe those trees are their trees, and that's the only alternative.
Very good. Thank you very much. We'll go to this table here and then allow the presenters to respond.
My name is Lucia. I work for Oribags. We manufacture packaging materials, and I wanted to inquire from NEMA if there is some research that is already done, especially on biomass packaging innovations, and to know the tonnage, the millions of consumptions we need if we are also to tackle the Kavera issue. Because the scenarios, especially like last year when you had put the ban on the Kavera, we had not estimated the forces of demand and supply, and we were overwhelmed to sustain the demands from the shoppers. And also, are you in touch with the Cotton Development Authority and the National Forest Authority in terms of statistics to know the Ugandans, their capacity to consume what can be made here locally. If we are using cotton waste, we are using banana fiber, we are using millet straws, different fibers. If we are looking at putting nuts on the importation of these plastic bags and so on. And another situation is where we have Chinese, specifically from Chikubo downtown, because they have low interest rates from their countries. They have no permits, some, so most of their products are cheap, that even when you produce from here, your products are very expensive because of the cost of production. But because they are masked, they have strong forces behind them, and sometimes you feel you have to keep quiet, because if people are already having these strong forces behind, and even you go to some of these offices, the doors are not open to us, the local investors, it is really a shame. And if we can partner on this, we also give you our experiences, you also advise us. Our environment is ours. It is not them, it is ours.
Thank you very much. Shall we have the microphone and allow the responses from High Table?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'll respond to a few. And Executive Director Nema, whom the law vests all the powers to carry out enforcement, should be able to give or throw more light. Now, but I'll begin by thanking actually the media for the work that they have done. I think most of the issues have been unearthed by the media, and I implore you to continue doing so. Now I go to the Shadow Minister for Energy, my colleague Honorable. You are talking about the destruction of trees for charcoal burning in the north. Actually, we've been looking at this issue, and recently I've just come back from an international conference on forest tenure. Now you find that, to be frank, the impact on forests and why we've lost a lot of forests is because of some of the changes in the land tenure. So you find that the pre-colonial times, like I told you, forests were managed by the cultural leaders, and it seems like they did better. Because when you look at the way they were managing it, although we never looked at what they were doing, we should have promoted that and improved on it. Because what they were doing was actually sustainable development, protecting certain species. Now, when it came to the colonial times, of course, the land tenure systems came into place, and the forests which NFA takes charge of came out of what we call Crown land. So that's where we now have those central forest reserves. Now, all those changes continued until we come to 1995 Constitution, which takes power, land belongs to the people. And there were forests which used to be controlled. You know, in the past, much as the forest would be on your land, but you required a license from the forest department to cut. But after 1995, everything was handed to you. This is why I always say that don't blame Mugisha alone. It is all of us, because those forests at that time, which were 4.9 million hectares, only 1.5 was what was given to him and UA. And they have also, I think, lost 400,000, which I've told him I need them restored. But the other acreage, I can only see 600 hectares. So that is the biggest problem. And now that's why we are now working together with the Ministry of Lands to see how can we now come back and work as a team. So much as you blame the what, but we don't, the power was given to the people. And now the people cut the trees. So we now have to go back and look at what we should do so that we are able to restore the system. But thank you for raising that. Now, a lot has been talked about sand mining, but what we directed after getting guidance from the parliament, as ministers, we halted sand mining until we have guidelines in place between us, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Environment, and NEMA. Now, whoever is going and doing sand mining does it illegally. So my colleague, Chairman 5, what you were doing was right, but I think maybe we should have done it better. When you go to enforce, even if you have inspectors, have my colleague, the police, because they are the ones who have the power to be able to, you know, these days when you go to enforce, also look at your safety. So possibly it was unfortunate what happened, and I think NEMA, you need to take it up, because I think we should not just leave that go. Because if someone does not have a permit to live in Uganda, and you are exploiting our natural resources, and you are busy fighting the leaders, sincerely, the police, you need to help us, because that is not acceptable. Because as a country, we are looked at as, it does not give a good image. So whatever happened, we don't condone it. I mean, we don't accept it, and Mr. Chairman, we need to work together and we see that the culprits are brought to book. Now, I think there are issues which have been raised. Others was information, and like people talking about the cumulative effects. Yes, like I told you that I used to prepare the State of Environment report, and I think by beginning from 1998, we were warning. We're giving warnings and saying, come this, if you don't do this, this will happen. Until it came to happen. Are we all listening? These warnings, if you go, there is evidence. By 1995, when you look at the studies which were carried out under climate change scenarios, they predicted all these things. But you see, we have this information, like as usual, maybe now my colleagues, members of parliament who are here, whenever we are looking at the budget, we think that education, energy, health are the only sectors. But you don't fund environment, you repay the cost. And environmental costs and restoration costs are normally very prohibitive. We are talking about the health burden, but thank God that the NRM manifesto, by the way, talks about preventive medicine, and we need to reduce on the curative. But again, it is a struggle. People don't want to change. Change of the mindset. People always want to continue. They want to continue promoting more hospitals, more what. Why can't we just clean these areas? They say washing hands. I'm told when you just wash your hands, you prevent 67% of the diseases. But you tell people to wash their hands, they will tell you, where is the food? Cham cham. Like they always say, I wash hands, where is the food? So there is really need to do more. So the media also, you need to help us so that people can learn to wash hands just with the soap. And actually in the statistics, the UBOS statistics, 99% of all households have access to soap, but they don't use the soap to wash hands. 75% of all people in Uganda have access to safe water, but only 37% wash their hands. So we need to do a lot more. And they are simple things, but they are very serious. Are we all together? They look simple, but when you look at the costs of these medicines and just the cost of washing our hands, let's promote washing hands, and then we have a healthy environment. Let's plant trees, and we prevent floods and damage to infrastructure. Let's protect wetlands, and you will have clean water. So, as a minister charged with this, I will continue making noise that fund me, and Uganda will go to prosperity, and you will go to middle income. Don't fund me, you will not reach there. It is not I'm not a prophet of doom, but it's a reality. You fund environment, we shall reach prosperity. You don't fund us, we shall be undernourished and always grappling with the problems. So I beg to leave with these few remarks, but I must thank all the organizers because I'm going for another meeting. Thank you very much, and continue lighting the candle, and the struggle continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think Dr. Kurut will have a final response, and then we'll take a short break as we escort the minister out.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to thank Barbara for raising fundamental issues on the strategies that the media can adopt to support the initiative of raising responsibility among the publics of Uganda. And I think on my part, on our part as NEMA, we shall do and continue doing the needful within the available means. My minister has already stated, and I want to thank the members of parliament. You did all your work. We've seen the budget. You've seen what you recommended, but we have also seen what we got. But you worked hard to make a recommendation. You recognized that we needed this funding, but it's not there. We recognize our priorities, government priorities right now, so we have to live within that. But the minister stated clearly, and the honorable member from the districts, according to the structure of managing environment, are key partners. However, funding, in terms of the resource, the human resource and the financial resource for the district is minimal. So sometimes when sometimes, you know, we are registering investors that have discovered investors in your investment in your district, we come in, but not that we jump the district. We want the district to come in, and this is why we want the statement that the media is not just the journalists. It is us, the members of the public, who are actors, and we require full support from you to achieve that. So I think this is a very fundamental thing, and the statistics given by Barbara on rice growing in Palisa, Iganga, or the eastern part of Uganda, spot on. But also, you can map the poverty level indices in that part of the region, and now you can draw a straight line between rice growing and poverty, directly correlated. So I think that message is not entering the people. They think they're growing rice to get rich and get poor, but actually the converse is happening. But they don't have the information. They don't have that information that you're given about how many times they go to hospital. Because if you go there, and right now, small 50 meters, that's big, even 25 meters by 25 meter size plots with water, spending almost all the time there, you have 3 bags of rice at maximum. That's what you have done very well. 3 bags of rice for the whole season. Rice is not a common food, so first thing you do is to sell the rice to buy cassava or millet. The other one is fish. So one session you are done and you're back to, and now there is no water, you have to wait for the next season. So the message that we want to reach the public, collectively, I think that's what I'm saying. We're looking at the leadership, the media, to give them the message, education message, information, so that they can get informed choices of the methods of how they interact with whatever is surrounding them. And unfortunately, that part of the region, that is the character, rise, but it's wrong. And the members of parliament, let's share the same message. Let's not deliver a different message to people. Wait, you know the effects. Most times we deliver different messages, and people listen to the members of parliament than the technical people, unfortunately.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kurut. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank the Honorable Minister for the role she's played this morning and all our presenters. We're going to take a very short break and then return to conclude this morning's session. During the break, we'll have Dr. Kurut escort the Minister out, and we'll ask you all to please stay tuned for the next 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Hey, Coca-Cola?
Oh, you're in luck. It's happy hour. So, you've won a free Coca-Cola, but you have to drink it here.
We buy from the US and deliver in East Africa.
Hello, Uganda. Have you ever thought of purchasing a unique and genuine product from abroad? At UG Unlocked, we purchase and deliver cheaply right at your doorstep.
Get your product in only 12 working days. We bridge the gap.
Call us on the numbers on your screen.
We are located in Kampala Boulevard Building, first floor, shop F11.
Find us on the web, ugunlocked.com.
I nearly lost my first child, Felix, because I didn't support him and his mother during pregnancy and after birth. I learned the hard way and decided to go all the way for my second child, Naigaga. Unlike Felix, when Naigaga's mother was pregnant with her, I made sure she ate as advised. We attended antenatal care. And breastfed her from the first hour of birth. Felix suffered a lot from our ignorance. We never kept him warm and clean, breastfed him for a very short time, did not give him nutritious foods, and we were always in hospital, not for checkups, but admission. However, we did things differently with Naigaga. We returned her to the health centers advised for immunization and regular checkups. We made sure Naigaga slept under treated mosquito net and learned to wash hands at an early age. Naigaga is happy, healthy, and clever because we did things differently. I learned the hard way and decided to go all the way with Naigaga.
That's his way of taking charge of his family.
Welcome back our viewers on NTV Uganda for the tail end of this morning's session. This is the NEMA dialogue on the role of media in natural resources sustainability. And at this point, I would like to invite Barbara Kaija, Editor-in-Chief of the New Vision, to make a few more remarks in response to the observations brought up from the plenary. Barbara, you're very welcome.
I think most of the responses were actually responses and not questions, and I don't have to go into them much. But there were some specific ones. Honorable Masiko asked about the products to address women as a major constituency, especially in environment, because women use the environment a lot. They use biomass in cooking, and how do we target them specifically? If you notice in my presentation, I deliberately steered away from saying newspapers are the only means of communication. I actually called for a good linkage, a good marriage, an intermarriage between the old and the new media. The newspapers will always play the agenda setting role because they are not ephemeral. When you need to refer to them, they are there. They also have the time to do the in-depth. They also have the time to present something that you can read, digest, and discuss. And indeed, the 290 radio stations scattered in the whole country, they hardly have any staff. Every morning they read the newspapers, and it's from the newspapers that their discussions come. So you'll find our products like Rupin, Orumuri, Etop, Bukede, the newspapers, all informing a lot of the agenda discussions in the different regions in the country. And this is something you can cross-check by just walking into a radio station. You'll notice that they're actually reading a lot from the newspaper. So that is why media planners will have to think about the integrated approach, using the newspapers, using the radios, using the TVs, using new media. Because for this younger generation, over 60% who are under 20, they will need their own type of media. They'll need Facebook, they'll need WhatsApp, I don't know what else is coming, but it will always be informed by well-researched media. And well-researched media, you can never beat print because you've got the time to put things out in a well-researched manner. Maybe the other response I would like to give, sorry, Honorable Yet has gone out, but he specifically asked about taking the products to the constituency, to the different regions. And I was going to say he actually has Rupin in his region. I would beg that he makes sure that his constituents get a lot of Rupin newspaper, because it's a well-researched newspaper that sets the agenda in that region. I think the challenge for development media, and especially for regional media, it is directly hit by income, because you're talking to a person who has to choose between a bar of soap and a newspaper. And we have to see how we fund that media for it to be sustainable. I'm a bit worried about the local language media, because it doesn't make money. The New Vision has for many years, oh yes, at least I'm talking when Honorable Kenna is here. Just saying the New Vision has for many years actually sponsored Rupin and Etop and some of those other local language newspapers. And it's not sustainable. I was already said, when the media is struggling, you have to throw off something. And it's possible we could throw them off not because we don't need them, but because they are very expensive to produce, because this is actual cost in newsprint, actual cost in ink. And the times I've spoken, I've always said, I wish government could look at the reality of removing taxation on newsprint used for local language media, because that's the only way we can preserve our local languages, but also that's the only way we can set the agenda for those regions. So for the members of parliament here, that is really crucial. That is very crucial for sustaining the media the agenda setting role of the newspaper. But Honorable Masiko, to be brief, radio is in the equation for all of them, but the agenda is set by somebody, and that's where I advocate for a marriage Maybe the last thing somebody challenged and said, if somebody is a big businessman and they're settling in the swamp, we would not write about them, and I would like to say that is not true. Even for the very name you said, we actually started screaming long time ago about the swamp in Munyonyo, and we just needed the other stakeholders to follow up. What prevents the media from writing, even when it is the new vision, is when you cannot get the statistics or the data. If you, the stakeholders, support us to get the right data and the right statistics, we have done it for any organization, even the government organizations. We've exposed the wrongs. We just have to have the supporting data so that we are not sued. That is all. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll ask you to continue sharing your views using the hashtag EnviroMedia. Hashtag EnviroMedia on Twitter, which hashtag can also work on Facebook and other platforms. The discussion is quite vibrant, and many people who are not in the room are following quite keenly everything that's being said here about the role of the media in natural resources sustainability. There were a couple more comments that came in for the attention of NEMA, and I think we'll ask Dr. Okuru to spend maybe another 2 minutes addressing some of them, including the pointed question from Ori Bags linked to Kavera and the natural products that could be used. She asked for some statistics. Dr. Okuru.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having interests and having been a beneficiary of the ban, because you responded to the ban by producing the products that the market of Uganda needs. I must say that the ban or the law limiting or prohibiting the importation, use, manufacture and distribution of polyethylene bags is still in force. It has not been repealed by any process. So until it is repealed and then the procedure is concluded, that's when it is changed. But otherwise now, that ban is there. And we have been using different means, and the one that we're trying to deal with now is to deal with engaging the public. Maybe if we educate our public to raise the awareness and knowledge about the negatives of the polyethylene bags, we don't need to use force. That's what we've been concentrating initially. I mean, for most of last year. We've done a lot of public education, awareness, and really giving information to you, the public, about what is scientifically documented on the effects of these polyethylene bags, and giving a choice. But we're still moving on that side. So right now, my colleague in NFA and others, I don't think we have the exact figures that you may need to respond, I mean, for us to respond to your demand. But what we know is that biomass packaging is a promoted activity. And if the market, I think Minister of Trade, maybe they want to give you the demand statistics of this. But definitely, I think, I'm not sure whether NFA will give you how much forest they can give you to make this, but give it a try. The market is there. In fact, that's what we are promoting, and all over the world, that's what we want to promote and utilize. The aspect that was, but you're welcome, we can dialogue more, and we're actually trying to arrange, we've been meeting newcomers in the industry. Many people want to introduce what they call biodegradable polyethylene bags. We're still studying the options. But there are many who really wanted to establish here but relocated because they didn't think that they would get the market. The polyethylene campaign pushed them out of the Ugandan market to places where they are welcome. Just let's say on the issue, the other issue that came out, and probably I need to mention, is which Barbara said about pollution, industrial pollution in Kampala or Lake Victoria. Actually, incidentally, from the research that is available, and actually when I was an active researcher in the 90s, we did do research and found out that the pollution in Lake Victoria then mostly was coming from the municipal drains from the municipal outflows and urban runoff. And it was calculated that that was a big thing, because at that time the industrial levels were very low. Right now, it's still the same, but most of the industries in Kampala have realized, or in Uganda, through compliance assistance, have realized the benefit of investing in improving on their waste, because it brings money. That's why Tororo Cement, Hima Cement, Scowl, Kakira, name it, these Nile breweries, all of them have invested in waste streams with the positive result on the environment, but with the money in their pockets. I think the rest, I think, will be general comments that we take on. My colleagues, Christian also answered to some of the issues that were raised earlier.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okurut. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move on quickly to the next paper, which is going to be presented by Mr. Morrison Ruakakamba. Morrison, as I've already stated, is the Executive Director of the Government Citizen Interaction Center. It is not necessarily a media house, but this is a center that enables engagement between government agencies and departments and the citizens of Uganda using various platforms. I'll invite Maurice, as his presentation is put up, to say a little bit more about what the GCIC does, though in his past life he was a very well-recognized.
First of all, apart from the word of mouth, social media is the most environmentally friendly media. Because I think in terms of carbon emissions, I mean, you just tap on your telephone and you're not going to print and do these other kind of things that have issues to do with emissions. So first of all, social media is extremely environmentally friendly. But two, I also wanted to kind of point to the good work of NEMA in trying to highlight the problems that we are in through data-driven research, with the hope of driving a consensus, especially among legislators and citizens, to act. Because if you look at this grim picture, of the amount of forest cover that we lose in terms of hectares, and the amount of money that we lose, as demonstrated over there, I think it is a crisis. And there are also attendant causative links. When we lose a lot of forest cover, it has implications for the water crisis. And even when government invests in digging up boreholes, gravity water schemes, we have seen them drying because the forests have been cut. And I'm happy that Mungisa is here, the man responsible for making sure that this country is 100% forested. And the other point I wanted to make is, I was looking at literature and I saw this, Byzantine writer called Edward O. Wilson, who said that destroying a rainforest for economic gain is like burning a Renaissance painting to cook a meal. For those that love classic art or who know what art really means, you know what this man was talking about. But going beyond that, I want to also agree with the Executive Director of Okurut, that we depend more on environment, more than the environment depends on us. And much as we're supposed to be custodians, the evidence showed by NEMA shows that we've not been custodians. From biblical times, you remember during the time of Noah, God essentially put the environment in the hands of human beings. The entire ecosystem, whether they are animals, whether they are birds and all species of trees, on this humongous boat, and said, you human being, man called Noah, you are the custodian, so you're supposed to stand there and make sure that the environment survives. But from where I sit and see, I think we are failing on that. And for Christians and other members of different faith, I think this is a very important reminder. But I also wanted to mention that at this moment, the world has never been more capable of solving these problems than before. Why do I say so? Because now the world is technologically engineered. People can be able to, communicate instantly, more than ever before. Technology has made it possible for us to do a lot of things. And it is on this point that I want to highlight a very interesting story of how media, for example, in this country, made accountability, because environmental sustainability is essential about accountability and responsibility. In the year 2000, a gentleman called Stevenson and Renick, they are Swedish, they came here to do research, and they are following money for capitation grant that goes to schools. Moving around the country, they discovered that only 30% of the money spent by government from the Ministry of Finance was reaching schools for our kids to be able to get books and pens. So when they came back to the Ministry of Finance, it was a shock. We are sending this money to districts and schools. Why isn't it reaching? So a decision was made that whenever government is sending money, the money sent should be published in newspapers and put on notice boards. And that's media. When that was done, these guys came back after 8 years to do another round to see whether publishing money sent out to schools actually made an impact. And it was discovered that now 80% was reaching. Because first of all, once the money sent was in newspapers, head teachers would go to the district education officer, hey, we know that the government sent money, where is it? But also because those people who are eating that money figured out that, well, now people are supposed to receive this money, know that the money was sent. So in a way, it mediated, and that openness, crumbled the corruption that was happening. So media is very, very central in terms of, helping us or helping government to become more open and accountable. And all I can say is that social media also has embedded capabilities of sharing things real time and of comparing. I want you to look at these two pictures. You can pull down 2 slides, my friend. Oh, you're going up or you're going down? Go down. Do you know why these pictures are not from New Vision? You can see Getty Images. But I know you can guess that one of the pictures is our city, that is Kampala. The other much very unclear photo, the quality is less than those of Barbara Kaija. It's in Lima. And I tried to get this picture of Peru, not England, because most of these South American countries, in terms of development, are not very much distant from us. But if you have visited their cities, and the kind of environmental friendliness and manicure and pedicure of their cities, you really wonder what's going on. So this is why I do believe that essential environment is also human-centered on how we care about things that surround us. It begins from that consciousness of the mind. How do we take care of our homes? How do we take care of our surroundings? How do we take care of our churches? How do we take care of our schools? How do they look like? So I really want to agree with you again, Director Dr. Krut, that it begins with us. These people don't have more resources than we have, but they take care of their cities, of their environment. They want to live in cleaner spaces. I wanted to go back to that slide of the data set that shows that, make no mistake, this is quite old. I got it from UCC some years back. But you can see over 5 years ago, almost 5 million Ugandans were active on internet. There could be more who are on internet, but those who are active are 5 million, meaning on a daily basis, they are checking what's going on. And social media, somebody talked of WhatsApp, Facebook and all those things. That is where our people are. So the mainstream media have no option, because to be relevant, their business is driven by the people. And this is where people are. So, whereas I agree with Madam Barbara Kaija on the difficulties that we face as print media or the old media, and I do agree developmental stuff requires inquiry, requires deep research, and you're doing that. But how you break that down, that hardcore scientific research, into simple messages and formats that can be proliferated on the social media, and they become instant, and they communicate in a way that is easy to understand, is what is going to make you prevail. And I'm glad that that's the kind of direction that you're already looking at. Simon is looking at me, so it means I don't have so much time. But the other point I wanted to make is that going back to the other pictures, they play a very important role because of the aspect of comparison. You imagine you go to your village and they are cutting all the trees like that photo Kaija was showing, and you take a picture and you send it out. Somebody is going to Ruviji and commandeering a wetland and you take a picture. That has potential to stimulate action by responsible agencies. If NEMA is not doing good work and you take a picture, yes, that is negative media, but it can stimulate very powerful feedback. So let's use these gadgets, not just for chatting with our friends, but for the public service of our environment. The other aspect to that is, once you take a picture of a well-run city, or a well-run village, or a well-run forest, and somebody else takes a picture of a badly run forest, and you compare. If I'm in an area where there are badly run forest and I see a picture of a well-run forest, somehow that stimulates my imagination, because I am capable of comparing, oh, so these guys in Karangala are actually maintaining their forests, but for us here in Lila, we are doing badly. Perhaps there is something we should do to be like people of Karangala. Do you see that instant comparison? And social media is one of the most powerful ways that really does that. Also, messages transmitted across social media have the power to go viral and spread other social media for within seconds. This is the instantness I'm talking about. And not only in the country, it can even be global. You know, didn't Trump use Twitter and social media to commandeer one of the most important countries in the world? He did so. So this social media is extremely very powerful. And now it has potential to live stream. As you know, Simon, these days we are doing open government sessions at the Government Citizen Interaction Center through live streaming, where we invite the government and say you are NEMA. And by the way, we're going to invite you to talk about these things, Dr. Okrut. So we open up and ask questions via social media, and we are streaming live. They are watching. They are watching as you speak, and you respond instantly. So the embeddedness and interlinkages are beginning to happen. So how the old but transformative and deeply researched media transforms itself, I think, is going to be very critical. Yeah, let's push to the final slide. The few conclusions I really want to make is that, one, social media requires organizations to build internal capability. And I think this begins with government, because government is the biggest construct ever created by man. So government as a key center to deliver services, to respond to citizens, must build internal capabilities. So I need to know, what capabilities do you have at NEMA as an organization? What capabilities do you have as Minister of Environment, as Parliament, to be able to instantly communicate? As we budget, do you even care to budget for the side of social media engagement in order to reach out to citizens? Because they say, show me a budget, I tell you where somebody's priorities are. So is Parliament, and I could listen to the minister as she talked about media, she didn't actually talk about social media. So there is also this we may also need to change to understand that this social media is really a force and we budget for it. The other aspect is that social media has huge capacity to syndicate with broader media. And here I want to agree with Barbara Kaija again, that something appears on social media, but a radio in Chisoro translates it instantly and in Rufumbira language, and the Bafumbira listen to what is going on. Radio stations that are over the place, they don't have capability to do research and open up bureaus, but they depend on the mainstream media, but also their agenda is driven by social media. Because I can see some of these important government documents, once you write the letter to stop somebody encroaching on wetland, before the letter arrives, arrives to some district, it is already on social media, and the radio station, by the way, in that district where the letter is going, is already talking about it. So imagine that speed and efficiency, and if we did take care to plan for it and deliver on it. Finally, like I mentioned, the most rewarding fact is that social media, next is, compared to the word of mouth, is the media of the future, and it is friendly to the environment. So let's really harness it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Morrison, and I like the way you started and ended your presentation on an environmentally friendly note. That is to ensure that NEMA takes up social media with aplomb. Members, there's no need to go over Morrison's brief, to the point and very insightful presentation, though we are going to come to the plenary after the next presentation, which is going to be delivered by Aggie Konde, Ms. Aggie Asimwe Konde is Managing Director at NTV Uganda and has very vast experience running marketing in Uganda. Marketing not small brands as many people do in this country, but marketing large, global, fast-moving consumer goods. And she has achieved a lot of international and national recognition for her professionalism in that particular field. She's now running a very large media house, the one that is airing this dialogue live, and her presentation is on corporate responsibility and accountability. Earlier this morning, the minister said the environment is our mother, and I am proud to notify you that Mrs. Konde here is also a very proud mother, and she holds very many candles for her gender, but challenges men as well very strongly. Aggie, we congratulate you on that, and we welcome you this morning.
Okay, I think I'll quickly take you through the realities of where we are at, and I think, like Simon did mention, I would like first of all to thank NEMA for this initiative and probably challenge the other government agencies to come forward to discussing the matters that concern our country, because this is our country and all of us need to be involved in the decision making of the things that matter to our country. So like Simon mentioned, I will quickly walk you through just 10 minutes because I think we're running out of time. But I wanted to start my presentation on a first slide that really re-emphasizes the issue of the reality. What is the reality of Mother Nature? Where are we sitting? And who is holding the information to the crisis that we are sitting on? And if I ask this question to government agencies, I mean I'll be sent to NEMA or to NFA or to Minister of Trade or to ITA. You know, there is no center that is holding the knowledge that this country needs to be able to plan. And what that therefore is happening is we're seeing, of course, lots of disasters in different parts of the country. We're seeing a lot of drought. And this drought we should have planned for, and we should know that it is coming back. When the rains come, we see floods happening. And this happens year on year, because if you look at the trends of our story reporting, we precisely can tell you when the floods will come next. And we'll pretty much have our teams planning to go there in that time of the month. It will be plus or minus one or two weeks, but it happens at that time. So we are really sitting on a big crisis, whether as a country or as a global entity, but we are sitting on the crisis. But the question is this crisis actually heightened in the minds of all of us? How often do we see that headline on, as our news headline, or whether on the social media, or whether on the print pages? How often do we highlight that reality? But this is the actual reality. And I did emphasize my presentation in pictures because, like I had when I was coming here, we were live, so I was following all the presentations. Yes, pictures speak volumes, and probably we should be able to take out these pictures. So the crisis, what are the issues that are driving that crisis? And if I try to summarize the areas that everybody pointed at, I think one of the major issues is actually ignorance. I would want to put that word politely, but I don't know how politely to put it. And ignorance on the information that matters. If you see the kind of coverage we give to the entertainment industry, and I think I wanted to put ourselves as media on the hot seat, is we do give a lot of airplay to entertainment. Why? Because we think the audiences want that entertainment. Yeah? But also it's a carrot and stick. Is if you don't give entertainment, then you probably won't have the audiences, then you won't have the advertising. So what happens? If we want to give information on government agencies, then government labels us anti-government. So where then is there's a carrot and stick there. So you want to give audience to the developmental matters, but then you don't have access to the information from the government agencies, and therefore you end up probably offering them soaps, music, drama, and entertainment because you don't have actually access to information. And this is really the reality. But what else is the issue then? We have a behavior problem, and you all know, for us to change the way, when we drink this water bottle, very easily during traffic you'll see people throwing these bottles out of the window. Does that really mean that this person was never educated on do not dispose this on the road? So what needs to be done? Is that really the role of media, to educate people on washing their hands? Seeing the minister sharing information of very high statistics on soap, very high statistics of water availability, but only 47% of us wash our hands. Where did we lose the dialogue? Where did we lose the conversation? Therefore, the behavior challenge needs to be embraced. So whether it is social media or print media or government agencies, there is need for us to collaborate. There is need for all of us to work together, because the common denominator is Mother Nature. The common denominator is not our political affiliations, it's not our religious affiliations, it's not our tribal lines. The common denominator is Mother Nature, where we are sitting, where the population is exploding, and yet we are sitting back and saying all is well. So that then takes you back to the financials. If you look, the same slide, please. If you look at what's happening at the economy back, is that all businesses are saying we're cutting back. Businesses are shrinking. But why are businesses shrinking? Because Mother Nature has reached the epitome of what she can provide for this population. So unless we innovate, use technology to be able to produce more, to be able to standardize our agriculture produce to match the demand, we are going to reach a plateau. And that is how businesses begin to suffer. Many people do not put the correlation between the impact of the economic factors to the environment, but it's a direct correlation. And I would want to get access to that information. Who has the statistics? Because right now we're using global statistics and assuming in certain areas, but we need to be able to move to what we are calling a knowledge hub, a knowledge sector, whereby information is harnessed, shared, and utilized to make decision making, even with priorities at government level. Because if you look at the budget allocation, I heard the minister saying, if you give me money, I perform. If you don't give me money, I do not. I think, to be honest, with all due respect, I think that is a defeatist approach. Because why are we not prioritizing the environment if it is feeding all of us as Ugandans? Is it because the state agencies do not have information to know that if we prioritize this, this will be the spiral effect, and therefore the economy will grow, our populations will become better economies, we will become a middle income status. Hence, we prioritize security, we prioritize all these other infrastructure, but what are we going to use on that infrastructure where we're putting millions of trillions of dollars when the environment is not protected? So, like I said, yes, I'm coming from the media, but we are ready to put ourselves on the hot seat and be able to begin a new conversation. And that is why we're saying, can we measure it? Next slide, yeah? Can we measure it? If we cannot measure it, do not be lied, we cannot do it. And every time we begin to have these conversations and we do not have numerical numbers to justify our decisions, we are lying ourselves. The fact that we know is that our population is doubling every 22 years. Are we doubling the size of the economy every 22 years? Is it commensurate to that growth? Therefore, what are we doing as planners? Are we doubling the forest cover, or is it shrinking? You see, everything else is going up, but Mother Nature is shrinking. Therefore, what happens next? I think that is where the crisis is coming in. And again, come back to say, media is not an enemy of the state. And state agencies that continue to push that agenda are actually against, they are not patriotic, and they don't love this country. Because if you cannot share this information and somebody volunteers to bring out the issues that we are facing as a country, you cannot say that that person is enemy of the state. So who does the state serve? It has to be the same population that is living on this Mother Earth, where we are all talking about as an environment. So quickly, if we went to then the role of broadcast media, because I really wanted to try and bring it at the macro level first. Yes, can media propagate the whole culture of corporate social responsibility? Well, I tried to get statistics on how much money do all corporates in Uganda spend on corporate social responsibility a year. And I think I got this invitation around the 3rd of March. To this date, I have failed to get a number in terms of the total investment of CSR in this country. And now that tells you something. Why is it that we cannot get that number? And is CSR therefore a priority? Yes, I know it is a priority, and we've seen very many brands that spend money, a lot of money building you know, if you look at a marathon, for example, and I know my advertisers are going to kill me on this one. We spend lots of billions of shillings on a marathon, and we will only commit a quarter of that to the cause. Is that a brand event, or is that a CSR event? Obviously, from the brand side, great opportunity, good things, and I think we need to continue doing those. But corporate social responsibility should not be left to the corporates alone, because corporates are too small. The contribution to our total GDP is too small for us to be just looking at the corporate social responsibility angle for that. But economic growth, every time we are growing as an economy, guess what is happening? The environment is being damaged. We are creating a lot of emissions. We're creating a lot of, you know, carbon footprint. We're creating all this damage. Just look about how many bottles of water. Every time you're told drink 6 glasses of water. What is the result? You drink 6 glasses of water, you throw 3 bottles of plastic to the environment. Yeah? The other quick question I wanted to even share with you, the issue of sanitary pads. We talk about sanitary pads. Do you know that we are probably spending about 11 million sanitary pads every month as a country, but that cannot be disposed. It gets into the environment and it's not biodegradable. But that's a topic we can talk about. But then so what? We don't have a plant in Uganda that is doing friendly sanitary pads. But we know that we have a need with our young girls that do not have access to sanitary pads. So that takes me to the next thing. There is a complete opposite conflict of the profitability agenda and the environmental agenda for all businesses globally. You're talking oil and gas. It's a very big industry, but you know the impact of oil and gas to this environment. But we want our oil, right? And we will want to have that oil because we are promising that it will take us to middle status income. But what is going to happen to the emissions? And how are we managing them? And who is handling that conversation? So infinite growth vis-a-vis finite planet is a big problem for us. And it creates room for us to really begin to have those conversations, because if we're going to have food, water, good climate, we need a knowledge-based economy where we begin to discuss green cities. I was looking at how many districts we have as a country. All these districts that are coming up are not planned. So what is going to happen? We're going to have urban populations that are obese, that need to go to gyms, and people cannot even have a walkway to walk around their cities to be healthy. But it's going to cost us a lot of money to go to health clubs, to be fit. And yet, if you look at our grandmothers and all, they used to walk X kilometers to school or X kilometers to church, and that made them healthy. But right now, we sit here all day. In the evening, we're going to burn $20 in the gym to be healthy. I think the whole conversation, we need to reverse the whole engineering process of where our thinking is to be able to fit into this space and prioritize the agenda where the sense of urgency is really brought into the fore. So I wanted to just bring this slide of the Sustainable Development Goals and say, if we are to propagate the culture of CSR, well, there's been already definitions of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And if you look at 70% of these goals have something to do with Mother Nature. 70% of them, they have something to do with Mother Nature. But if you ask Barbara, or if you ask me, I only have one Eco Talk magazine a week on TV, on NTV, that talks about the environment. I do not have any specialized journalist that is talking about environment. Nothing. Those are the realities on the ground. So other than, I don't know, Barbara, whether you have any specialized environmental reporter, probably one or two, because Barbara's newsroom has a very senior age, so she should be having some advantages. So you would find that the realities on the ground are actually not matching the urgency that we have on Mother Nature, and these conversations need to happen. Well, the beauty is we are aware of the problem, and I think that is the starting point. You can only create an emergency when you know that you have an urgency to address, right? So now that we know, we need to be able to go back to the drawing board and have more of these dialogues where we begin to come together as private sector partnerships and address priority areas, because we can't be all over the place, because we don't have the resources, we don't have the money, and we don't have the impact. But I was just thinking about, just between the telecoms and media, every single day directly we are reaching an average of 15 to 20 million Ugandans. Either they are buying an airtime card, or they are on our social media pages, or they are watching us on TV, or they are reading our newspapers, or they are listening to radio. Every single day. But how many times are we telling them to protect the environment? Probably 1%. Yeah, probably 1%. But again, there's goodwill. I think there's a lot of goodwill from media to be able to propagate this agenda. It is a question of having the agencies come out and want to work with us, I will re-emphasize that point. So then, why are organizations not supporting nature? Like I mentioned, that whole conduit called profit. I mean, all of us report to boards of directors, and boards of directors are investors that want shareholder return, right? So when we go to shareholders, like every shareholder, all of you I have invested. When you invest every $1, you probably want 0.2 of that dollar to return as profit. Now, if you are going to invest in the environment, probably that 0.2 might not come now. In the short and medium term, it will not come. Do not be lied. But it probably will come in 5 years, and it will create sustainable business models. So this is where really we are struggling as businesses and as Mother Nature to try and have a balance where you can be able to deliver profits, protect the environment, and be able to invest in your people. So I did highlight a third area there, which is political goodwill. I think this has nothing to do with media. This has everything to do with political goodwill. If we put the goodwill we have behind security, for example, because I think environment is actually a security issue. Yeah, because we're talking food security. But if we looked at the security budget, what proportion of that is to the environment? And that is what we want to begin to run as citizens of Uganda, to demand accountabilities from the people that represent us, whether the member of parliament. If you're coming to us and in my constituency, Rukunjiri, you're telling me that you want to be voted, what are you going to do about the environment? So if you look at most of the agenda item, the environment is probably 1% of all the issues that people are representing. And we are representing the citizens. So I think it is time that we began to see, and we're going to see it, by the way, we're going to see a new hero of generations. And if you talk to young people, most of you that are mothers and fathers, our young people are more concerned about the environment than we are. My 6-year-old daughter, when she sees somebody dropping something out of the car, she's the first to say, "Mommy, stop, we pick that up." And you're like, okay, let us stop. But how often do we do that? You know, she'll be the first to say, we need to be able to live with animals. We need to be able to have plants around us. They are actually already cautiously aware of the need to protect the environment. And I think we owe it to the next generation, as people who've been given, you know, the chance to manage the current generation, to hand over Mother Nature that is ready to take the next generations and generations of citizens. Otherwise, we will sit back and they'll be saying, what did our fathers do? That will be the question on their mind. What did our fathers do? So please, let's have lots of public engagement. Let government agencies open up and share information. Let us create more collaborations, and let us reframe the narrative. The environment is gone. And unless we rise up to the occasion, we will have nothing to hand over to the next generation. So lastly, the next generation is waiting. They might ask these questions when they are burying us. They might not ask them when we are alive, yeah? But they will ask those questions. But between the next generation, goodwill, and private sector partnerships, we will be able to change the course of corporate social responsibilities and be able to give ourselves a chance to live in an environment that is fair to all the citizens of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aggie. Very, very well said, very well stated, and judging from the alarmed but quite serious in the audience, I think your message has hit home. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to come to you to please make your contributions, observations, some questions, and we have 10 minutes for the plenary session, so we'll probably take around five questions and comments, starting from that table over there where we stopped, and going backwards in order to be fair to everybody in the room. And then we'll have the presenters respond over a 10-minute period, after which we will bid farewell to our viewers. Can we start with the lady in the pink jacket? Please keep your contributions down to 2 minutes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Mine goes to Morrison. Thank you very much for your enlightening presentation. You mentioned that social media is the most environmentally friendly form of media, but I didn't hear any flip side to it, because it can't be all glorious. There must be a flip side to it. For example, there's a lot of citizen journalism, of course, on social media, and there is information overload. So the public gets confused. You might give information that is environmentally friendly, and someone else gives information that is not environmentally friendly, and that leaves the reader or the viewer or the follower in a state of limbo. And then also there is armchair journalism. You say that they get tips from social media, but that encourages some form of lazy journalism. So that might be also a flip side. And the last one is that there are many companies that are advertising environmentally unfriendly goods. So those are the three flip sides that I see to it. Thank you very much.
Kindly state your name and organization.
Oh, sorry. My name is Bernadette Ndema Omondi, and I work with Accord.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Varianga Andrew Aja, Member of Parliament, Kabale Municipality. I'm going back to the Kavera issue. There is a tendency in supermarkets nowadays where we have woven Kavera, and people still believe that it is recyclable, or as in, it's non-recyclable, but they believe it can be degradable. Yet it can't be degradable. To what extent has NEMA come up to educate the masses about that very Kavera that is non-recyclable at all? And to what extent is NEMA trying to encourage, since we are not even getting rid of Kavera at all, to what extent are you trying to encourage only recycling in factories? Because these recycling factories help us get rid of the Kavera around. And then they're advertising to the people, to the masses, to know that this recyclable Kavera can be recyclable, so you should always bring it here. Then teaching the masses about Kavera, like from Omo, Kavera from Nomi, Kavera from this soap, Kavera from sugar, that are not recyclable at all, about their disposal. It actually make more harm than the so-called Kavera that are being manufactured here. The Kavera that we use when we are buying bread. To what extent has NEMA gone to make sure that these Kaveras are well disposed of? And to what extent are you encouraging recycling? And how have you come up with making sure that these so-called cotton bags, and yet they are not cotton bags, they are actually very well plastic bags that are woven? How are you fighting them not going to our environment? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Shall we go down the line? That table over there.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you all presenters. I'm Daniel Babikwa. I work with NEMA. Our topic here today is natural resources sustainability. One thing I would like to thank you, the presenters, for bringing out some key elements of sustainability. That's a balance between environment, economy, and society. And I think it's one message that should always come out, because one of the challenges we have in environmental management is about the choices we make on the path or the route of the development of the country. Right now, it looks like the dominant thinking in economic growth in this country is about economic growth. It's about wealth creation. But one challenge we have is we fail to relate the creation of wealth to the source, because all the wealth we create is anchored in natural resources. And the process of wealth creation, whether we like it or not, is bound to create a lot of depletion, to deplete a lot of our resources. But the vigor and emphasis with which we try to bring out this wealth, the good side of wealth, is likely to cause more damage to the environment. And I think media should help us to create the kind of awareness, which is not just general awareness, but critical awareness, which is environmental literacy, environmental, social, and economic literacy. That will help people to make the right choices about what they do in order for them to become the actual stewards of the resources we have. Otherwise, without that critical awareness and literacy, we'll have a challenge of having this environment.
Thank you very much. Shall we have that as the last question and observation for now?
Thank you. Thank you, Simon. My name is Robert Intende, Member of Parliament, Bunya South. My concern is with NEMA's style of approach to implementing their strategies. 2 weeks ago, I attended a function in Iganga, and the leaders in Iganga district were up in arms about NEMA's way of doing things, that your officers left Kampala and went to implement environmental activities in Iganga. And their concern was on the way they demarcate boundaries of the wetlands. Actually, their complaint was that they simply went in, the municipal, they started actually putting boundary points in the municipal councils without involving the leadership of the Iganga district. So, Mr. Executive ED of NEMA, as we try to promote environment, as we try to use the media and more so the show media, me as a member of parliament, as an advocate of the people and at the same time environment, I would wish that if you come to my place to carry out environmental activities, involve the leadership, both political leadership, religious leadership. We have also cultural leadership. And more so, these boundaries, there is a provision in NEMA, in the environmental law, where you have to review these boundaries every 5 years. And more so, the issue of population has also escalated. If you go to Busoga sub-region, population has actually more than doubled. Maybe we are more fertile than any other region. And today, when you take the old measurement of boundaries, you're going to throw our people outside. I don't know where will they survive from. It is a big, big question on Busoga sub-region. I thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to come to the close of this morning's session. So I'm going to ask each of the presenters to respond with 3 minutes each. Morrison, then Agi, and then we'll have Dr. Okurut close off.
Yeah, thank you very much for the responses. The lady from the Advocates Coalition for Development and Environment. I know you run a program called Environmental Democracy, and I want to tell you that social media is one of the most democratic, pathways for communication that we have in the world. So to the extent where you have information overload and misinformation, that same platform allows agencies like NEMA to really use the same platform to feed it with correct and real-time information. And we should also know that the access to ferment of information really stimulates imagination of citizens and stimulates learning. And we should trust the citizens that they have ability to discern correct information and wrong information. So to sit here and assume that these people can't discern good and bad information, I think can be deceptive, reductive, and objectifying of citizens. But I also know, and I agree with you, that the social media, unregulated, very democratic, for everybody, can have challenges, and we should be ready to confront them by using the same space to provide correct and good information that would save our environment. Finally, I think Dan from NEMA, you raised a very interesting issue that touched on what Madam Konda and others were talking about. I think there is a need to balance this environmental romanticism, which is very important, with the realities of our time. We are sitting here today, I think it is yesterday that Donald Trump signed on this Keystone Pipeline, that is going to be an environmental disaster of very huge proportions. But the Canadians are saying, well, we love the environment, but we need to also provide jobs for the citizens. So how do we balance the natural resource exploitation with the ability to deliver jobs? And what plans, for instance, do we have to invest in smart technologies to make sure that we exploit our natural resources in a technologically and environmentally friendly way while delivering the jobs? And that was the challenge with Mabera. You cut a forest because you want to provide jobs. Do you see? Do we go on the streets and say, don't cut Mabera? What's the option? So that's a conversation where I think we shall need another day to deeply engage with. Thank you so much.
I think allow the ED to respond first because most of the questions were around this area, and then I could, or is it for wrapping up? I think, okay, protocol, sorry. Okay, I think my quick take really, I think we're on the same page in terms of the urgency to address the issues about our environment. And as media, well, Barbara and I are already here, we are committed to that cause. I think there's nothing that can be doubted in that area. We are more than committed. We are looking for partners to collaborate with and be able to push the agendas that are pertinent to our mother nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And as I went up this discussion, I want to thank the two presenters for bringing out factual issues. And I think our social media infrastructure is growing, and we're going to get that. What she said is correct. Every time we have to post information to rectify some misinformation which has been uploaded into the social media, and especially the issues that the chairman of Wakiso talked about. I think there is a conversation. I'm very happy to collaborate with the media to take this conversation ahead to the next stage, and it's very important what you said, and the issues that you talked there are very important about sustainability. Sustainability for what? Sustainability for the people who are coming after us, because already we have lived another part of our life. That is critical. And so we're going to sustain this conversation with all our colleagues, and I must say that environment discussion in Uganda, and my experience in NEMA for some time, indicates that when you talk about environment, you are touching every sector of government, every sector. So others keep quiet, but it's there. When you go here, you find it there. So it's very important. And Honorable Minister, I think we'll talk about the Kavera. The woven Kavera, the theory of using bags that are woven is how many times are you going to reuse that Kavera before you dispose of? The ones you are given, if you buy a phone, you buy water, you get a Kavera for each. When you go home, you dispose. When you get this one, if you can use it 4-5 times before you return it to the environment, you have retained it out of circulation. That is the theory of some of these options that we have introduced. How many times you can retain it from returning to the environment. If you do it 5 times, you have reduced the threat by that amount to the environment. And that is it. So there's research going in Makerere with that type of system to look at how long it takes. But you just do experiment, pour water through it. If the water goes through, then you know that this is a valuable product compared to the one which retains water. So,
no, Doctor, please continue.
Okay, recycling is a component which the people who are manufacturing this are continuing. We have also agreed that whatever Kavera is recycled never comes back in the form of Kavera again to the market. It now goes from Kavera to make higher forms of plastics. For instance, from the polyethylene bag, because the polyethylene, that character that is available here is the one which is a threat to the environment because of its ready availability and disposal character. If you see all the dump sites, you see it there. You don't see jerry cans, you don't see these other black plastics there. You don't see them there often because they're returned. So it is this one that to get exposed to the environment that we have. So recycling is an ongoing activity, and I want, before Simon closes, to thank everybody who have gained a lot. Me and my team, Naomi, the organizer here, she has been fantastic to ensure that you're here. And I'm sure next time again we have a big audience where we talk real issues. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Korut. And as we close this morning's session, allow me to, on behalf of all the participants here, thank NEMA, the National Environmental Management Authority, all the participants, the media, NTV Uganda, and our viewers this morning. Thank you very much for being with us. And we want to say that everybody should remember that the environment sustains us. Therefore, we must sustain our environment for God and my country. Thank you.
Hi, I like to think of myself as prim and proper. I like structure and orderliness. So imagine my rage and frustration driving in Kampala. From the reckless cutting in to the undefined lanes, it is frustrating and it makes my blood boil. Several times I'm tempted to follow what everybody else is doing because it seems to get them somewhere. I have gotten out of my lane to try and get to my destination faster, or sometimes I have actually driven on shoulders. I know. And come to think of it, I've actually created more traffic than I would have if I had stayed in my lane. Imagine the damage I would cause to property or other road users. It's not worth it. And for that reason, I, Rachel Mwine, pledge to be a responsible road user. And for those of you that are still doing the same, Twedeko, every life matters.
This message was brought to you by Viva Energy and NTV Uganda. NTV, turning on your world.
Is a special day with Santa Lucia. Santa Lucia, you've got to taste it to believe it.
Corruption awareness is brought to you by Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, together with Judicial Service Commission.
Fellow citizens, all monies paid in court must be receipted. If no receipt is given, or in case you have any complaint or suggestion about the courts in Uganda, report directly to the Judicial Service Commission or call the toll-free lines on your screen. For those living up country, you can place your complaints in suggestion boxes at the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer.
Corruption awareness is brought to you by Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, together with Judicial Service Commission.
Street Life is brought to you by Reham Fun Time, and conquer your thirst. Fun Time, fun all the time.
Omulimu guno gumbeeredde mulungi nnyo lwakuba ngufunyemuuko ku kasente ne nsobola okupangisa ennyumba n'okuyimirizaawo ennyumba yange nga nze nina